On November 29, 2024, the 9th Joint Air Patrol between the Chinese and Russian Air Forces was being carried out in an orderly manner according to the predetermined plan during this joint strategic patrol. There is no need to mention the troops dispatched by the Russian Aerospace Forces. It was still the Tu-95 MS strategic bombers from the long-range aviation of the Russian Aerospace Forces. Specifically, they came from the 326th Heavy Bomber Division of the 37th Group, Army of the Long-Range Aviation. And the Su-35S fighter jets dispatched for escort should be from the 303rd Composite Aviation Division within the 11th Air Defense Army of the Eastern Military District and the 22nd Regiment of the Red Flag Call Kingal Fighter Aviation, with its base at Zhuangqi Airport. As for the escort troops dispatched by the Chinese Air Force, they were the J-16 fighter jets. From the photos, it could be seen that the J-16 fighter jets should be from a certain unit of the Air Force in the Northern Theater Command. When taking off, they were equipped with PL-10 air-to-air missiles and PL-15 air-to-air missiles, which was a typical configuration for air escort and air superiority operations apart from these regular participants in the China-Russia Joint Strategic Patrols. The main aircraft type dispatched by the Chinese Air Force this time, which played a leading role in the strategic patrol, really took everyone by surprise. At first glance, it looked like the conventional H-6KJ bomber. But on closer inspection, well, this aircraft was actually equipped with an aerial refueling probe. Among all the current models of the H-6 bomber in the Chinese Air Force, only one improved version of the H-6 has such a technical feature. That's right. It was the H-6N strategic bomber that first appeared in the military parade celebrating the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China in 2019. There was no doubt that the Chinese Air Force dispatched the H-6N strategic bomber to participate in this strategic patrol for the first time ever since it was a strategic patrol. It was only natural to dispatch strategic bombers to participate in the patrol. In terms of its performance, the H-6N was indeed worthy of the title of strategic bomber. During the military parade in 2019, its weapon configuration was relatively conservative, only equipped with two types of surface-to-surface attack missiles similar to those of the H-6KJ, namely the K-AKD-63B and K-AKD-20. The former had a shorter strike range while the latter had a longer one. But we all know where the strategic aspect of the H-6N bomber really lies. On the one hand, the H-6N is the only model among China's domestically produced H-6 bombers that has undergone in-depth modifications. Its fuselage bomb bay has been removed, and at the same time, its flight control system has been changed from the previous hydraulic mechanical flight control to digital fly-by-wire flight control, resulting in relatively better handling performance and making it more suitable for pilots to conduct long-distance patrols. In addition, as we can see, the H-6N has an aerial refueling probe added to the front of its fuselage. When coordinated with the Y-20, a tanker aircraft, its combat radius can be greatly extended. On the other hand, since the term strategic is mentioned, it means that this aircraft possesses strategic capabilities. For a single tactical weapon to be related to strategy, it either has strategic-level battlefield surveillance capabilities or strategic-level surface-to-surface strike capabilities. This brings us to the improvements made to the H-6N after the removal of its ventral bomb bay regarding the strategic-level battlefield surveillance capabilities. There's no need to elaborate too much. I believe those who understand this will know what it means. Moreover, at this year's China Air Show, the WZ-8 unmanned aerial vehicle, which was usually on display in the unmanned aircraft exhibition area in previous years, was nowhere to be found. It seems to partly prove that there are some more advanced models that haven't been shown yet. We won't go into more details here as for the strategic level strike capabilities. It goes without saying that it must involve nuclear capabilities. For a long time in the Chinese Air Force, only the earliest H-6A bomber had limited nuclear strike capabilities and participated in the airdrop hydrogen bomb nuclear test. However, it was never truly mass-produced and equipped for the troops. The Kwang Bia-01 small nuclear weapon equipped for the Chang'e-5 also wasn't truly mass-produced and equipped for the troops. Therefore, from the early 1970s until the appearance of the H-6N, the Chinese Air Force's ability to use nuclear weapons was almost zero. As for what kind of nuclear capabilities the H-6N strategic bomber actually has, it's still the same old story. Just look at the removed ventral bomb bay of the H-6N and you'll know. We can't say much more than that. But the only certain thing is that although the takeoff weight of the H-6N is smaller than that of the Tu-95MS and the B-52H, its strike range is by no means ambiguous. Its strike power, battlefield survivability, and penetration capabilities are far superior to those of these two strategic bombers that mainly use nuclear bombs and tactical nuclear cruise missiles as their main strike means. After one aerial refueling, its combat radius, combined with the strike radius of its own strike means, can already extend to the continental United States. For example, during this strategic patrol by the Chinese and Russian Air Forces deployed over the Sea of Japan, the Bear Tu-95MS of the Russian Aerospace Forces, equipped with X-10110 cruise missiles, only has subsonic penetration capabilities, and its strike radius is only 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers. However, if our H-6N strategic bomber carries corresponding strategic strike means, it can directly target the interceptor missile launch sites at Fort Greely in Alaska or the sea-based long-range early warning radars in the Aleutian Islands. This is the performance gap. Therefore, in this sense, during the 9th China-Russia Joint Strategic Patrol, that is, this 9th one, China truly dispatched strategic bombers that meet strategic characteristics to participate in the patrol. And its significance is quite significant. Firstly, from the perspective of political declaration, the strategic bomber-level patrol reflects the high level of strategic mutual trust between China and Russia in the military field. After all, strategic bombers are the most important weapons of a country and the cornerstone of strategic nuclear forces. With such joint operations, the degree of cooperation, coordination, and mutual trust between China and Russia can be clearly seen. Secondly, from the perspective of battlefield construction, whether it is the Sea of Japan, the Sea of Okhotsk, or the Bering Strait and the Bering Sea area where the 8th China-Russia Joint Strategic Patrol was conducted, they are all extremely important preset battlefields that can receive support from one's own side to a certain extent, strengthening battlefield construction here, enhancing air situation awareness and guaranteeing support, and conducting drills on the coordination of air superiority fighters and strategic bombers in patrols are all integral parts of battlefield construction. Thirdly, from the perspective of strategic significance, dispatching strategic bombers is a huge deterrent to the surrounding small countries, especially Japan. Whenever the long-range aviation of the Russian Aerospace Forces is dispatched, the Japanese Joint Staff Office will definitely be scared out of its wits. Now that the Chinese Air Force has also joined in, it's really a double surprise for the Japan Self-Defense Forces. Although our H-6N bombers were not armed with missiles this time, who can guarantee that there isn't a second echelon on standby that has been armed and prepared? This is deterrence, including the first appearance of the H-6N strategic bomber this year. China's strategic nuclear forces have already appeared in front of the world for the third time this year. The first time was, of course, the test launch of the Dongfeng 31X strategic missile in Hainan Island in September 2024. The second time was on October 20th when CCTV reported on a certain Dongfeng 26 missile brigade. Dozens of Dongfeng 26 ballistic missile launch vehicles were neatly lined up, looking unstoppable. The key words in the commentary clearly stated that the Dongfeng 26 has strategic strike capabilities. In other words, China has comprehensively demonstrated its land-based strategic nuclear forces this year. It has demonstrated both intercontinental ballistic missiles that have the ability to conduct a full-scale nuclear exchange with powerful adversaries, and medium-range ballistic missiles that can be used in theater-level nuclear wars and strike the main forward operating bases of powerful adversaries. In terms of nuclear weapon equipment, the ranges are basically connected and the tasks are coherent. And now it's November, the third month. What we have demonstrated is the air-based strategic nuclear forces. It can be said that this is a kind of universal nuclear strike means that can not only conduct theater-level nuclear exchanges but also carry out full-scale nuclear exchanges. In just 3 months, our land-based and air-based nuclear forces have appeared one after another. Now, only the sea-based nuclear forces of the Triad nuclear strike forces have not been demonstrated yet. So, I think, in terms of the demonstration of strategic nuclear forces this year, has China been a bit too aggressive? Since the air-based and land-based nuclear forces have been demonstrated, why not, though it might be a bit of a stretch, demonstrate the sea-based nuclear forces in the last month of this year? From the perspective of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the underpinning role of strategic nuclear forces for a country is particularly evident. Although NATO countries have provided Ukraine with all kinds of conventional weapons and equipment, personnel training, situational awareness and electronic countermeasure support, and would even send disguised soldiers to participate in the war when necessary. However, in any case, NATO dare not get directly involved and use the combat systems of the whole NATO to collide with Russia. The reason lies in Russia's powerful strategic nuclear forces, which, like the last insurance of a country, have restrained NATO's eager and reckless pause in the great power confrontation. Because once there is a real collision between great powers and it comes to the point of using strategic nuclear forces, there will be real casualties for a long time. Our strategic nuclear forces have adopted a secretive attitude. On the one hand, since peace is still the mainstream in the world, it's not appropriate for China to flaunt such intimidating things. On the other hand, in the situation where the United States and Russia have achieved a terrifying nuclear balance, there is no need for us to be too high profile in terms of strategic nuclear forces, so as to avoid becoming the target of nuclear strikes in a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. On the third hand, the lack of transparency caused by this low profile will itself increase the policy costs for some countries when they try to conduct nuclear blackmail or launch a preemptive nuclear strike against China. Therefore, it was necessary for us to adopt a relatively low-key nuclear policy during a long historical period. However, as the main strategic focus of the United States has shifted to us, it is no longer necessary for us to adhere to the previous secretive attitude towards strategic nuclear forces. It's time to show that we really have the ability to fight and win a nuclear war. And this is the fundamental reason why the H-6N, the Dongfeng 31AG, the Dongfeng 26 and so on have emerged one after another this year.